SwoleBenji here. Here's some random facts that you won't find on forums, discords, the wiki, or anywhere else but this video. This is a vast collection of data and facts collected over 1 year. Some of this stuff is obvious, and some of it has 0 results on Google. You'll definitely learn something with this video. Some of it will also be widely known information, but I make videos for newbies, so I want to make sure they know these things as well. Blue and yellow zones solo dungeons despawn after 1 minute once you zone in. If another player zones in, it resets the timer. Sometimes, well, if you're in the red or black zone, it's 90 seconds. Most people know this one, but what about group dungeons? Well, a group dungeon, even in static areas, will despawn 15 minutes upon the player first entering. This timer does not reset in statics, and will close the dungeon regardless if people are entering or not. Group dungeons on the world map will reset their timer till a certain threshold is met. Once a group dungeon despawns, it takes 15 minutes for it to reappear, or for the doors to reopen in static dungeons. Speaking of static dungeons, the treasure chests inside respawn every 15 minutes. There is a theory that recently looted static chests won't carry as much loot compared to if they have been sitting for a while, but I don't find this to be the case in my testing. The mobs considered bosses that guard these chests also despawn in 15 minutes. If you're interested in maps and strategies for statics, I have a few mapped out in my Discord. Links are in the description. And I've got 20 seconds left. When I was recording this footage, I didn't have my mic on, so I spent hours recording footage, and now I have to add it in post, and we got 10 more seconds until the clip ends. So, hey guys, what's up? You liked the video so far? Hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next clip. Ever wonder how much an item can be salvaged for at a repair bench? It's 75% of the listed item value. So if you crawl the market and find something listed under the salvage value, buy it out and salvage it. Most items under value are decorations from the monthly challenge rewards. Sometimes lower tier gear can be listed under this value. Ever wonder why your tooltip damage shows 100, but when you attack a mob it only shows 40? Mobs have armor values, and the highest I can find was 56.4%. If you're fighting a high-spec player, even cloth wearers will have more armor than this. Damage values are calculated kind of oddly. You get a base damage increase from your armor, and anything else is additive to that. So if you do 50 damage and your armor increases your damage by 50%, you now do 75 damage. Then, if you receive a 50% damage buff, you will now do 113 damage as values are rounded up. Most people know you can't loot a chest in a dungeon if you leave too many enemies alive. Did you know that explosive barrels count as enemies? Also, trap mobs, be it the flame chests, the cannon shooters, the barrel droppers, or the lightning traps, don't count as hostile mobs unless you attack them. So if your Thetford Cape tags a trap mob, go ahead and kill it, or you might have to backtrack the whole dungeon to access the loot chest. When you get to the point where you allocate fame credits into your spec, it's more efficient to spend those credits a certain way across the entire tree to boost your IP values. I have it charted out in Discord, but there's a few lazier ways to go about it. If you have multiple millions to spend, just level every node to 65. After that, the points effectiveness drops dramatically. But if you don't have that much, a good rule of thumb is for every 2 non-artifact points, you can place 1 into artifacts. But if you're mainly focused on one weapon type and not the whole tree, check the fame credit cost compared to the IP gain you would get on the non-artifact. I know this sounds complicated, but you can get more IP for less fame credits by speccing into your other weapons up to a certain point. Ever wonder how tinky you can possibly get? Well, without masterpiece quality, that is. You can get up to 87% damage reduction and then another 63% damage reduction after that is calculated versus players. Stacking defenses isn't linear either. This is with a Martlock Cape proc, with the one-handed sword E active with 3 stacks, the Avalonian Shield, Royal Boots March max stacked, Scholar Cal active, Resistance Potion active, and the Judicator Armor active. Now, the most health I've managed to get without Masterpiece is 16,392. This is with max spec, Guardian Boots, Forge Hammers, and a Giant's Potion. Unbuffed, the most health you can get with non-Masterpiece is 4,908, and that is with a full Avalonian Plate, Incubus Mace, and a Taproot. Ever dream of owning a shop in a major town? Do you think that it will make you tons of money? Think again. You can check the administration tab and the silver that is banked on it in the stalls, and the best profit I can find is barely scraping 1 million a day. So 31 million profit versus 200 million to own the shop, 200 million to auction to keep the shop. What's the point? If you aren't part of the cartel, or you have literal billions laying around, don't ever buy a plot in town, ever. It is always cheaper to plop down a hideout in the black zone. Also, if you think you can just undercut other shops to make a profit, think again. These guys have entire guild vaults full of trash they will use to deplete your shop's crafting quantity, food, and they can easily afford to undercut you all season long until you sell the shop. If you think black zone bullies are mean, oh man, the shop cartels are the worst. They have far too much money and resources. You could credit card thousands to keep your shop open, and they would be able to keep up the torment for years. This is the part of the game that you're best just to avoid. I did a massive gathering test a few months ago, and here's the data. Do note that this is ever changing. Ever want to know how much you can make per hour if you had max spec and max gear gathering in a tier 5 yellow zone all to yourself with every node completely full? Basically, what Avalonian Road guilds get around the clock. Avalonian Road gathering is 4 times more profitable than anything in the Royal Continent, and unless you're in a mega guild, you can forget gathering in the black zones. From most to least profitable, mining metal, then stone, and then fiber. These are the top 3, and all of them can be found in the Fort Sterling areas. Then, the next 3 is wood cutting, skinning, even factoring in the baby animal drops. And finally, the worst is fishing. Now, a lot of people tell me that fishing is great. Here's the thing. Fishing, as a brand new player with no gathering spec, is more profitable than gathering anything else. But at max spec and max gear, fishing is the worst. As far as skinning goes, you're forced to skin in bridge watch areas for baby animals, so everyone that skins goes there. You literally cannot skin during prime time, there's so many people. Perhaps when the Royal Continent gets expanded it will change things. When skinning, I would get around 1 baby per hour on average. Some people, and even myself in the past, said that skinning is amazing because you can fame up your weapon. But in my testing of doing nothing but skinning for 8 hours a day for 2 weeks, the amount of fame that I got was about 2 hours worth of doing tier 5 solo dungeons. I can no longer recommend skinning at all. Maybe it'll be better when they expand the royal zones. Finally, some people like me like to gather multiple items all at once. Truth be told, in my endless testing, this number crunching, focusing on all 3 resource types in a zone hurts your earnings per hour. However, you should still carry the tools with you in case you encounter enchanted versions of the resources. If your focus is stone gathering, ride around and gather stone, and ignore metal and fiber unless you see it's enchanted. By stopping for every resource, your earnings per hour drop drastically. And in my testing, it can cost you about 700,000 an hour. I had to metal mouth that out because I'm doing this in post because my mic was not on when I recorded the footage. I'm sorry. Ever wonder what the most optimal way to stack cast speed on your gear for Frost and Fire Mages is? I've ran every combination possible and tested the DPS against Hellgate demon bosses, and I have the definitive answer. Use the Weapon Caster passive, have your Scholar Robe set to cast speed passive, and have your helmet and boots, both cloth, set to the damage passive. For Frost weapons, Hoarfrost is the highest DPS Q ability to use, but if your targets are low HP, then Frostbolt is the ideal choice. The third Frost Q ability was heavily nerfed and isn't better than Hoarfrost in any situation. All this implies you're using a Morgana cape, by the way, and for one-handed weapons, a Crypt Candle. If you use a book offhand, you don't need the cast speed passive on your armor. Also, don't forget the pork omelet, and the rest of this is ad-lib because I didn't write a script for this, and I apparently was talking for a whole nother minute. I believe I'm like, hey guys, let me show off the damage on this here demon. So the combo is you F and then E and then R. Dude, I don't remember what I said when I was recording this, but my microphone was off. I'm sorry. Just replay the video in slow motion. It's like RFW. I forgot to use my D ability, which I just realized, so I'm like running out to reset the fight. I think I was bragging about how much damage I did. I believe it was something like 9 or 10,000 damage in that short amount of time. Also, the way my monitor is set up, I can't see my screen right now, but there we go. Yeah, it's like FWERD. Well, you R prefer, so you have faster cast speed, and then you use D at some point. Yeah, there we go. Finally use the D, and you just spam Q, and yeah, there you go. If you stack crowd controls on a target, there is a diminishing return. This means you can't chain stun someone forever or hold them down forever. The timer is 20 to 22 seconds until you can get the full effect of crowd control. However, different crowd controls share separate return rates, so you can stun a target and then after it's over root them, and then they won't get a reduced duration on that second attack. If you max out your diminishing returns, it is half the duration. So 8 seconds will go down to 6, and then 5, and then 4, and then it'll try to go back up to 5, and then back down to 4, if you keep reapplying it. But if the only way to get back to a full 8 seconds duration is to wait the whole 22 seconds before reapplying. Now, players will have quite a decent amount of crowd control resistance already. A 0-spec player in Cloth in Tier 6 will be 50% resistant, and a Tier 6 with a max spec is about 61% resistant. Now, these are the Cloth values. Plate has even more. So you want to know the best anti-rat corrupted dungeon build in the game? A lot of people think it's one-handed Dagger plus Layering Cane plus Royal Helmet, but that is not the case. You'll need max spec for this, and the only way it works is in Slayer difficulty with 8.3, but that kills every rat and most meta builds, no problem. The build is one-handed Curse Staff, Layering Cane, Royal Helmet, and any plate chest, Hunter Shoes, Demon Cape, and an Omelet. All you gotta do is activate the Hunter Shoes and land a W to root them, weave auto attacks and curse stacks, apply Curse Explosion, and use your Royal Helmet to stun them before the root wears off. And no one in Corrupteds uses Mercenary Hood, and even with crowd control resistance, they will still eat a full duration of the Demon Cape, rolling curse stacks, and even if they immune the first Curse Explosion, you can get a second W cast off after the stun wears off, which means they're going to eat a second Curse Explosion and full curse stacks before they can even run away from you. No Bear Paws player can survive this, and the range on your root plus the Hunter Shoes means you can catch them every time very easily. I am 30 seconds ahead of the script. Oh my god. Alright, so obviously when I was shooting these clips, I'm not looking at the game, I'm looking at my script because I was supposed to be doing this as I recorded. So I'm not really showing off the full power. You can normally do way more damage, but I wanted to show off the range of Curse Staff's W, and I think I show it off in a sec. Basically, if a Bear Paws rat shows up in the corner of your screen, you just run at them and press W and they're stuck. That's a 10-second root. If you're ever in a dungeon with another player and you want to steal the loot, the chest will be owned by the player that finishes off the last guardian of the chest that is alive, or whoever does the most damage to the last remaining monster. So if you fight a boss with a skeleton minion tied to the chest, and you kill the boss, but the rat in your dungeon kills that skeleton afterwards, he will get the chest instead of you. Otherwise, if it's just the boss, then it's whoever does the most damage to it. Even if you didn't clear the dungeon, once the chest unlocks from clearing the dungeon, the other player cannot loot it for 2 whole minutes, which is plenty of time to run back to the chest room after going back and clearing the dungeons. Also, for guild leveling, if you make a brand new character with the intent on getting siphoned energy, it takes about the time from starting the character, running the tutorial, getting the gear to run tier 5s, it's a little under 8 hours. If you are a max spec Chad using 8.3 bolt casters, you can gain guild levels in about half the time. And if you're a group dungeon Chad, then you can do it in even half that, so like 2 hours. So even after the nerf, it's still worth it to make your own guild. Never ever bend the knee, lads. Just don't do it. And yeah, so 10 seconds left in the clip. Man, what was I ranting about? I don't remember. Black mold is bad, guys. Black mold kills your short-term memory. Huff huff. Alright, so this is just something I learned just today. You can only have up to 5 skeletons in town from suicide. So if you wanted to paint a pretty picture with your corpses, you can't do it because you can only do up to 5 bodies at a time. I know in WoW Classic they did something similar so that you couldn't spell out naughty words in town. Anyway, just thought I'd share. Did you know that throwing blades, the dagger ability on W, can shotgun? If you are on top of your opponent, all 3 blades can hit, making them the hardest hitting single target with a damage buff in the game. A lot of people use Chain Slash, but this is far superior for just one enemy, because not only does it do more damage, but it also buffs your attack power. You can expect to do around 250% additional damage when all 3 blades hits, and the attack boost is totally worth using it over Chain Slash. Now, Chain Slash is great for a gap closer if the enemy seems to run away for a bit or if there's multiple opponents, but honestly, throwing blades is way more worthwhile to use, and you should always be using throwing blades if you're in like a 1v1, especially like corrupted dungeons and stuff, because sometimes the throwing blades will hit other monsters around you, giving you even more of a damage and move speed buff. It's totally, absolutely worth it. And in the next clip, I'm going to share with you a Dagger one-shot build. Alright, sorry if my voice sounds different. I realized that I wasn't recording audio at all in any of the previous clips, and I have to add everything in post, so it might not line up, whatever, but here we go. This is the Dagger one-shot build. So if you want to, you can one-shot most players with Dagger pairs in flat 6 if you have max spec. I don't have access to tier 6 daggers, and on live I don't have daggers leveled at all, but I've done the math and it's like 2,800 damage if you have just flat 6. You can wear 4.1 or 4.0 gear. That doesn't matter. It doesn't increase your damage. But what you do is you have the Assassin Spirit Q, throwing blades, and of course the passive doesn't matter because you're going to kill in one hit. This is what you're going to wear for Hellion shoes and for Stalker helmet. So the combo is you're going to activate your Druid robe and press Q, and you're going to wait for that second stack. So we have it. Now we're going to F the mob, and then we're going to D, W, and E, and it will bleed out. Now this mob has 3,225 health and about 56% armor. So players will be a little more armored, but they're not going to have 3,200 life, okay? Most players are barely going to be scratching in the 2,500 health mark, okay? Unless they're very, very geared, they're not going to have that much health. Alright? And after the Hellion, the Hellion shoes teleports you on top of them, when you use the throwing blades, like in the previous tip, it shotguns. So you can kill some 8.3 geared players instantly if you have the Keeper Cape on. I didn't have the Keeper Cape on, but if that's rolling, you can kill an 8.3 geared player that has, you know, like 3.5k health in plate. It is so strong. Have fun with this build. I'm sure you'll see it one day on the other YouTube channels if they level daggers up. But yeah, it's a great build. It's also fun in arenas. I have a lot of fun with that. Now, one other thing I want to just talk about, and not really show because I can't show it. There's nothing on the auction house left, so I can't really showcase this. But if you get a placeable object and you enter a dungeon and then you exit the dungeon and wait for it to despawn, you can place a placeable object over the top of the dungeon, like this thing. Like I can despawn this and I can place like a torch over the top of it, and it will never ever ever spawn again in this place until either the torch is destroyed or a player uses a map and the map spawns it on top of your object. Now, if a map dungeon spawns over the object you've placed, it deletes and destroys the object forever. It just vanishes from the world. So, if you want to grief a zone, like if you want to go to the arch areas and just put a bunch of placeable objects down for them to smash up with hammers, go ahead, because they won't have any dungeons that'll spawn. It'll be really fun. Alright, so there was a few other things I wanted to tack on real quick. If you want more info, it's in the Discord. I'm not going to showcase it on the video because I'm just done editing this. This is taking way too long. This is taking my life force away. And oh my god. Okay, so there's 2 cheap builds I want to showcase with 4.1 with max spec, because that's the dream for me. When I play this, I'm like, I want to go out in 4.1 and kill people. Because it's super cost effective, and it's really annoying to die to a 4.1 player. It really is. It'd be like in Tarkov when you have max gear and you get killed by a pistol user or a hatchling, right? So anyway, the build is Curse Staff, Shield, Cleric Robe, Assassin Shoes, Stalker Hood. And at max spec with a 4.1, your combo does 2,800 damage. So if they don't have a way to block or immunize that, they just die and lose all their stuff. And it costs under 25,000 silver. I know that sounds like a lot for a newbie. 25,000 does sound like a lot, but 25,000 silver is jack shit once you get your economy going. It's throwaway money. I would give someone 25k and forget about it in like 5 minutes. It's really nothing. It's literal pennies. once you've played this game for a while. Now, a lot of people say claws are the way to go, but the claw combo at max spec does less damage, and you have to have a demon cape to make it killable, which adds 100,000 extra to your ganking costs. So claws are not the cheapest gank set or the most reliable, and if you're buying claws from Caerleon, they're like 20,000 each, so that's really stupid. However, there is one other gank set that you can use that's easier, and allows you to stack defensives, which is very important if you have fight multiple opponents, and that is the bow build. At max spec with a 4.1 bow, a cleric robe, not activated by the way, assassin shoes, and a hunter hood or a cleric hood for that juicy ice block, you can pump 3,000 damage in 10 seconds. The cursed staff combo takes 12 seconds to finish, and you only have 2 defensives, but the cursed staff build relies on applying the stalker hood debuff on wounded targets, so if they run away out of range, then you won't be doing that combo. The bow build, you just pre-buff yourself with W and E, you can even mount up, dismount next to somebody, and you're just ready to roll. And you just auto-attack them until they die. I gank with 4.1 all the time on a bow, and I have amazing success. People do not expect how much damage it does. Use the piercing arrow passive, as the attack speed is wasted on the regular bow. I've tested the DPS out on many targets, and the piercing passive is the one you want to use. Now, with a tier 8 flat bow, you'll do 2,000 additional damage in that 10-second period. So you can kill max geared players if you want to spend on a tier 8 flat, which honestly isn't too expensive. For 2,000 more damage, it's pretty kick-ass. This bow needs a dang-ass nerf, okay? Now let's talk about crafting for Fame Week. You know what Fame Week is? Fame Week just happened. It's when you get a 25% increase for fame for crafting and killing things, and just in general, 25% additional fame for everything you do. So if you want a power level crafting, you need to save all your materials for the Fame Week bonus. And then you want to get the raw materials at least a few weeks before, because when Fame Week starts, the materials will cost a shitload. And you don't want to pay top shelf prices for materials, okay? Then you're going to craft everything you can during the Fame Week, and then you wait a few weeks after, and then you sell your crafted items, okay? Because crafted items will be an all-time cheap because everyone else is crafting, and because the raw materials are extremely expensive, there won't be a lot of that to go around to just restock your own crafting. So doing this properly, it does take a long time until you hit a Fame Week, but if you do it properly, by buying low and selling high, you can power level crafting completely free. Alright, the final tip is combat regen. You know how like you're in a corrupt dungeon or you're in a PvP situation and someone hurts you really bad, but you have a fish or a soup that heals you up? You ever wonder how long it actually takes for that soup to heal, to like kick in? It's 18 seconds from the last time a player touches you. So just run away, count to 18, and you'll be healed right back up. It's very important for corrupted dungeons. Anyway, I'm SwoleBenji, thanks for watching. Be a bro and stay swole. Return your shopping carts to the cart corral, and I'll see you in the next one.